Welcome everyone to the 2025 Canadian Hydrogen Convention. I am absolutely thrilled to have you guys here at the Edmonton Global stage. Kicking off the first session of the day, we've got our live audience online. Welcome to everyone here, and as well, welcome to everyone in person. My name is Alyssa Linford, and I'm with Edmonton Global, and I'm super excited to introduce the first panel of the day, Driving Impact Across the Transportation Economy. Without further ado, I'm super excited to kick things off by having our panelists introduce themselves. If anybody has questions, feel free to put the questions in the chat for those who are online. And for those in person, feel free to stick around after the panelists. You might be able to catch them. All right, let's get started by having our panelists introduce themselves. Heidi, I'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Heidi Hicks. I'm the Director of Municipal Fleet Maintenance with the City of Edmonton. So I look after approximately 5,000 heavy and light duty vehicles. I also have emergency services and a fabrication shop. So looking forward to the panel and really interested in where we go today with this conversation. I'll pass it to Rebecca.
Yeah, my name is Rebecca Goldsack, and I'm COO at Diesel Tech Industries, a hydrogen diesel dual fuel provider based out of Edmonton, as well as I am chair of Hydrogen Alberta.
And hi, my name is Terri Johnson. I work with the Alberta Motor Transport Association. So we support the commercial transportation drivers here in Alberta. And we are operating a whole bunch of hydrogen diesel dual fuel and hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles with our members.
Well, thank you. And before I get started with these questions, I might just say I'm super happy to see some very powerful industry leaders that are all female on this panel. So really excited to see female leaders here in the hydrogen ecosystem. My first question that I'm going to pass to Rebecca is, we often discuss the need for decarbonization when we talk about hydrogen fueling, but perhaps less discussed is the economic opportunity of hydrogen vehicles. Can you give us your elevator pitch for the economic impact that hydrogen vehicles could provide?
Yeah, definitely. So when you look at hydrogen vehicles, you look at the entire ecosystem, whether you are a heavy duty technician, an engineer that was, in oil and gas that is now working in hydrogen. You talk about fabricators, welders, just the full gambit of different ecosystems that are all now have the ability to diversify to hydrogen. So we're really seeing a huge movement within the industry to learn about these technologies, adopt these technologies, and really diversifying our entire workforce.
Fantastic. Heidi, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's no doubt that we have the talent in Alberta and across Canada, which from oil and gas are experiencing that. So it leads into where we're going with hydrogen. I think it's a great time to explore and test drive different products and innovation, and maybe slow down a little bit and make sure that we're doing our due diligence through those phases. So working with our partners, we've got Strathcona County here, Sturgeon, work with the University of Alberta, also DTI and Alberta Motor Transportation Association, some others. So it's really a combination and collaboration between, municipal, federal, private industry, public. So yeah, looking forward to where this goes. But like I said, is it's a time to really start testing different products and utilize our expertise that we have in Alberta and the experience that we have. I'll pass it to Terri.
Yeah, so some of the things, obviously the trucks and the vehicles are things that we're organizing and working with and implementing here in Alberta, but there's all sorts of an economy that goes behind them. When we think of vehicles, we don't necessarily think about maintenance providers. We don't necessarily think about the hydrogen bays or even the education systems that need to be in place for first responders and for drivers. So when you take a look at the ecosystem as a whole, there's a lot of opportunities for us to really diversify.
For sure, yeah. You guys mentioned a lot of collaboration pieces and a lot of opportunities with those. Now, I think a really big and key question that gets asked every year, but every year we have this convention, so I think every year I can ask this question. And I'll start this for Terri. Are there any key lessons that each of you have learned in your championship of hydrogen vehicles thus far? Or you can mention any key projects that you think have provided invaluable lessons for the continued growth of hydrogen in the transportation industry.
So we have had a lot of projects that AMTA has been working with. We've got the Tech vehicles. You'll be able to see one of the trucks at the back there, and that's building 2 fuel cell electric vehicles that are Canadian weight, which is a big thing that'll work in Canadian with Canadian ranges. So those vehicles are here. Through that project, we were not only working with the vehicles and the training and the mechanics but we're also working with the fuel supply. So we're working with Suncor in order to enable that 350 fuel cell grade hydrogen. So we've been able to do that. Also, we've worked with zero emission vehicle infrastructure awareness, which was really education. So education for drivers, education for first responders. Then we did a hydrogen vehicle demonstration, which was probably my favorite. And that's where we were able to take fuel cell and hydrogen diesel dual fuel vehicles and put them into the carriers' business operations. Through that, the carriers and the fleets were able to understand how these vehicles will impact future operations that they're working with. So those projects together, there's also a Transport Canada one that we're working with right now, which is trialing fuel cell electric vehicles as well as battery electric vehicles here in Alberta and BC.
Awesome. Rebecca, what are your thoughts?
So, I always look at, the Canadian Hydrogen Convention, where it was when it first started versus where it is today. And it is a completely different convention because all of these organizations have worked together to build what we've been able to build in the last few years. So when you take that and, when we started in our hydrogen dual fuel business, we thought long haul Class 8, that's our application. Well, we have a long haul Class 8 application here. That was actually not our earliest adopter of the technology. And, we've done it on motor coaches, we've done it on transit, we've done it on waste, we've done it on a 5-ton. We're doing it on multiple different applications, and it's not a one size fits all. For us, we've learned, that the early adopters are actually typically a return to home base model versus, that long haul, because we just don't have, that full connection of corridors yet, but it'll definitely connect the dots. So there's a lot of learnings that we've had, and it's palpable what we've been able to create within this entire ecosystem.
Heidi?
Yes, lots of lessons learned. I would say one of our greater challenges right now is infrastructure needs. So obviously, there's a lot that goes into installing hydrogen, not only from a fueling perspective, but from, a building perspective. So that's very costly. How do we connect the dots and make sure that they're funded properly? Also, public safety is another big one. So the change management around just the whole perception of hydrogen and how it can work in our economy. And then also for us at the city is our service level needs. So we have to make sure that we're still meeting our service level needs while we try these different innovations and while we're growing. So really working with those OEMs and vendors to make sure that the products that we're producing can still keep us, moving and removing snow and spring sweep and keeping our city going and our citizens happy at the end of the day.
And I think to that point too comes down to we worked with the AMTA when we were starting in this journey, and we went to a lot of different organizations within government, both on the provincial bylaws and such, as well as OH&S and Alberta Municipal Affairs. And it was a great demonstration of how different organizations that have that that buy-in from different industries that help us develop. We were the first organization to have a certification for our facility to be able to do conversions of dual fuel. So we're writing the pass through that we need to do so that regulators and everyone else can kind of help and adopt this technology. So really paving the path forward so that this can then be replicated and scaled throughout other regions.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of the trials that we're doing, we're working with 1 or 2 vehicles, and we're working maybe with 1 or 2 fuel supplies. But what we're doing is that first pilots so that we can understand how we need to develop this ecosystem effectively and integrated, because it's not just a matter of the hydrogen fueling. It's not just a matter of the vehicles. It's the entire ecosystem that you're developing all at once. So by doing these projects, we can identify all the ecosystem pieces that need to be advanced.
So Heidi, you mentioned something that I actually want to touch on now, which is infrastructure.
Okay.
We talk about hydrogen production all the way to end use. You can't have the end use without the infrastructure. What are the most pressing infrastructure gaps right now, and how can public and private sectors work together to close them?
Well, I think just on the stage right now in the audience, and through the convention, we've got a lot of players that are in that space today working together. So that's a first start. As Rebecca mentioned, there's the policy and safety procedures that go into the infrastructure needs, which is really a big one. It's not just, supplying the fuel cell. We've got a lot of needs around like what is a technician of the future? What does that look like? What are the building requirements, the codes, as I mentioned? It's a large scale, and so we need a lot of people that are invested in that, and also the OEMs, to keep up with the products that we need. So if you've got the fuel source, then we'll get the vehicles. Without the fuel source or the facility needs and the structure to actually, maintain your vehicles in those bays. We've got a couple right now that are prototypes that we're working on. And so as Rebecca said, and Terri, it's taking that model and replicating it across the board. So I think it's, it can be expensive, but we're trying to scale it. So we're learning as we go and to make sure that we get it right before we speed up and go too fast.
I think provincially and federally, something that is important with the infrastructures is the codes and standards. So one thing that we've been able to identify is where the non-existent or best practices for codes and standards are being used right now, and where we really need to address those gaps, whether it's CSA for first responders, whether it's the codes and standards for a hydrogen bay and how that's going to be, whether it's the vehicle, a hydrogen versus a CNG vehicle. Right now, all of the hydrogen vehicles are being CVIP'd, or they're having their commercial vehicle inspections, and we're relating them to the CNG vehicles, but coming something out for specifically the hydrogen vehicle, so that when we're doing those inspections on the vehicles, the codes and standards are in place across Canada, so that we know that the vehicles are safe and they're up to a certain specification.
Any other thoughts, Rebecca?
And that goes back to that point of, when we started out in this, right, we are the ones that are kind of writing the rule book. So we developed what best practices, how to install the system, what you need to be able to do. And then we worked with Nate, and we created a micro-credential program. So now we actually have, an independent organization that's able to demonstrate and teach people on hydrogen, dual fuel, as well as fuel cells, so that it's replicatable again, right? So, those types of partnerships that we work with, to help build out this entire ecosystem. Because if you think you're going to do it, as one independent organization, it is not going to get far for you.
Well, and Rebecca, even with what you're saying, the trusted source. So we know when we're working with Nate or we're working with the University of Alberta or SAIT, these are trusted resources. So we can develop materials that are not only used for multiple people, but that there are adequate resources. They're not saying things that maybe they shouldn't. So. Yeah.
I think it's also is building that foundation and securing the foundation and using other examples, not only in North America, but across the world. And here's a perfect example to meet some of those players. So lots of collaboration going on in that space. What are other people doing that we can adopt back in Canada and Alberta to grow our industry? But we do need support for sure to keep the policies and procedures going and to keep up with the standards that we require when we're bringing in these vehicles, not only into our service bays, but also, like we said, is the training and technical component to make sure that we're keeping up with the industry as it grows.
Yeah, no, all great points. And I think it's really amazing to see not just the collaboration, but the learnings that we're taking from these other delegations, other countries. Like, this conference is testament to see all of the different countries, like the diversity. There's over 20 countries here at the convention today. So fantastic to see those kind of collaborations. Could each of you describe your own vision for Alberta's role in shaping the global hydrogen economy, specifically in the transportation industry? And maybe I'll pass it to Rebecca first.
I mean, ultimately, my hope is, I mean, there's 1 million registered vehicles here in Canada. You know, we are looking to make sure that hydrogen is that next fuel for, you know, transportation. So, you know, for me personally, we're a medium-sized business based out of Edmonton. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be on the stage here talking about hydrogen, I probably would have laughed at you. But knowing that, you know, we can make a difference in the future generations and what is to come, and that, you know, we're paving that path forward. And ultimately, I want to see a shit ton of these vehicles on the road.
For us, transportation, heavy duty specifically, is a huge GHG emitter. So that's a big problem on our roads. So for us, if we're able to reduce the number of vehicles that are putting those GHG emissions into our air and with our children, we want to help with that decarbonization. So decarbonization, I think, is the first. Whether you're looking at your zero emissions through your hydrogen or your battery electric vehicles, or whether you're looking at those emissions reductions that Rebecca's technology would provide you with hydrogen, diesel, dual fuel, that decarbonization is probably what our long-term goal is. And how you can see it is if you're driving down the road and you see, oh, there's one of the trucks. Oh, there's one of the trucks. Oh, there's another one. So it's really quite exciting to see those vehicles as they're driving down the road, and to know that you have somehow been a part of that decarbonization process.
And I think for the city of Edmonton, because we have such a diverse mixed fleet, so like I said, over 5,000 pieces of equipment, it could be light duty, heavy duty. So it's that diversification that we need. So it will be a combination of you know, electric, hydrogen fuel cells as we go forward. You know, we're really in that testing phase and discovery phase to make sure that you know, we're understanding the innovation and what you know, the benefits are on the back end. So for me, it's a combination of all of them. I would love to see hydrogen more focused in the heavy duty space. I think there's a really good space for that. You know, but for us, it's really looking at all of them in a combination and seeing what works as we go forward. So, you know, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're reducing our emissions and supporting the overall platform and strategy.
Well, thank you. Now we just have 2 minutes left, so I wanted to leave you guys the space to open up any last thoughts that you guys might have, or anything that I might not have touched on. I'll start with whoever wants to go first.
I'm just going to say I'm so thankful that I get to be on the stage with these three wonderful ladies. It's a great ecosystem to be a part of, and the fact that I get to work with these ladies as well as lots of other that are even in the crowd today, Jamie. You know, it makes me super proud that, you know, we can pave this path forward, and I've got a great little family that I get to work with, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think building on what Rebecca said, collaboration is huge in this space. If you've never worked with a hydrogen producer, but you drive a vehicle, guess what? You're going to be working with everybody. And it's really exciting to see the collaboration between all of industry coming together and working together. Like you said, specifically in Alberta, I think the reason we've been so successful is because we are like a family, and we do know all sorts of things that we have never thought we'd dip our toes into. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a great team. I think for me, is over the past 4 or 5 years on this journey, is really understanding how much goes into getting something like this off the ground. So it's a lot of work, a lot of investment, a lot of time, but it's also very exciting. It's a time to, you know, test drive different products, like I said, that are coming online. So it's a very exciting space to be in right now.
Well, thank you guys for your last thoughts there. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out for the very first panel of the day. Thank you to those who came in person, and thank you for those who are joining us online. For those who may have any questions online, feel free to put those questions in the chat and we'll do our best to get back to you. And for those who have any questions in person, if you stick around, you might be able to catch one of these three before they leave. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Heidi, Rebecca, and Terri, for your time today. I just want to let everyone know the next session is starting in 15 minutes, and that session is going to be Scaling Safely, Building Canada's Hydrogen Future with Confidence. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for the first panel.